Hey Cougs, I'm Jala Mason.
And I'm Andrea Nava.
And you're watching another episode of In the Game. The Cougars just wrapped up their NCAA tournament run, and this time they made it all the way to the Elite Eight. They finished 32-6 for the season overall, and they won their conference tournament and their conference regular season title. So when the season started, the Cougars were strong, which is not surprising. But two of their best offensive players went down. This is Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark. So when they were injured for the rest of the season, no one really knew what that meant for the Cougars. So to put it into context, Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark averaged 27 points together per game before their injuries. 27 points is a lot for an average. So it was normal to be a little bit nervous. Even Kelvin Sampson was. But you wouldn't even know that this 8-man rotation that they ended up going with wasn't who was supposed to be playing all along. Everyone really stepped up, including Coach Sampson. So I knew the tournament run was going to be very interesting.
So what did you think about, getting that head start against UAB? We did come off strong, but, you look into the details of it all. What do you think was something worthy of noticing?
Their three-point shooting was intense. So it was kind of uncharacteristic, honestly. They shot over 47% from three, which was definitely the difference. UAB even said they were not prepared for that because their defense, they play tough, but for them to shoot like that, you can't prepare for all of that. So the Blazers were able to stay within reach in the second half, but that's when the Cougars turned up their signature defense. So after the 14-5 run they went on, the game was pretty much over.
No, it was a satisfying win, especially when, you got your shooters coming out and you're unstoppable. You start making one and then you keep going right after the other, which is what we also saw in the game versus Arizona. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But, after that, you had the game versus Illinois. Very entertaining game as well, super satisfying as well. And I think here everyone can agree that Tajay Moore was the man of the match who stepped up really, scoring 21 points and clinching those 7 rebounds, which also leads me to say why Houston is so successful in the first place. They are a team that fixates and just expands their success based off of rebounds. Rebounds is what won us this game. You got 7 rebounds from both Fabian White and Tajay Moore, and then you got 6 rebounds also from Carlton and Edwards. So, in combination with your shooters, in combination with that defense, and in combination with the tedious ability to gain those rebounds in important games like this, you're going to walk away with the win 100%.
And after watching that win against Illinois, it was funny because when you look at people's brackets and stuff, a lot of people had UH out a lot in the second round, but even in the first round. So
one of those people being ex-President Barack Obama. I saw that bracket, and all you can really do is laugh when you see something like that because, you would think that someone who, watches basketball wouldn't have such a one-dimensional decision made for, a game against UAB. I mean, come on now.
And it was so common, too. I was like, guys. But, yeah, so like you said, Tajay was definitely the man of the game. But I also think it's interesting. Everyone thought it was going to be Cockburn, and we definitely swarmed him. He did, get his double-digit points, but they could not get into him. They could not get to him efficiently, and I think that was a deciding factor, too.
Very true. I think the game plan when it came to Cockburn was really not only to kind of shut him down, but just applying pressure to a player like him is enough to turn the game around, whether, that's drastically or not. But it was enough to shut him down. It was enough to get us the win and keep him suppressed at a level, whether that was, double teaming him, just pushing him out to the side. It worked out for us in the end. So.
For sure. Josh Carlton was the big man that came out on top.
100%. And, you go to the next game, and it's so funny because this is every single game is a team effort, really. It's evident. It's not just one person carrying the team throughout the entire tournament, the entire season. So, therefore, versus the game versus Arizona, Kyler Edwards was evidently the man of the match versus Arizona, shooting 5 for 9 on three-pointers. And, it's not only that, but in combination with The rebounds as well, like we mentioned before, one of our strongest assets as a team. Josh Carlton with the most rebounds for Houston with 7, also coming in clutch. So, a game versus Arizona, you go in there. What seed were they?
1.
They were a first seed team. It's natural for you to doubt with the numbers going in, but no, man, this game, we were in the lead the whole time. We never gave up. It was clear as day, the win.
I was only nervous in the beginning just because Tajay got into foul trouble really early.
Man.
And he was our guy in the last game, so I was like, okay, so he had to sit out for the entire first half, really early in. But
that's how Houston gets you. Houston keeps you on your toes 100% because one game you got one player, stepping up. The next you got a different player stepping up. It's never the same person, but it's also a collective effort, which makes it so exciting to watch even that much more, which is probably the biggest upset from this season is not being able to watch that anymore, really.
Mm-hmm. And another guy that stepped up who usually does, in my opinion, is Jamal Shed. Whenever someone goes down, he puts the team on his back, not only as point guard, but as a scorer as well. And I don't think that the Wildcats were too ready for that. So you have the strong shooting, and then you have Jamal, who also stepped up. It's like you said, we don't have a superstar. We have people who fill whatever role we need. And beating Arizona, there was the whole, oh my goodness, a 5 seed beat a 1 seed. But for anyone who watches Houston, it wasn't too surprising, as Houston is not really a 5 seed. They were ranked a little bit low, in my opinion, in many. It comes from, not putting too much weight on the non-Power 5 conferences, because if you look at Memphis, they almost beat Gonzaga. But we move. So in the Elite 8 game, Houston fell to Villanova. It was a really low-scoring game for both teams, 50-44. So right away, the Wildcats were up, and pretty comfortably as well. The Cougars were still in it, but they could not get a shot to fall. So it wasn't really looking like the momentum was going to swing in our favor. Fabian White and Josh Carlton were able to give a little bit of life to the Cougars, but when you go 1 for 20 from 3 against a team who's pretty decent at three-point shooting, even though they had a pretty off night as well, it's going to be pretty difficult to get that win.
It's these kinds of games that puts a lot of this into perspective because, we did hold them down to 50 points. It wasn't a blowout in my eyes. Mm-hmm. Was it a bit different? Was it a bit of a different playing style than we're used to seeing? Yes. But given, just the situation of the day, things happen, and that still wouldn't make me label this team as, someone who's worthy of not being in the Final Four, to be honest. This team is more than deserving of being in the Final Four. So, yes, it is a bit frustrating, but at the end of the day, it's just another reason as to why the game is so good.
And like you said, things just happen sometimes. The shooting night that the Cougars had is very uncharacteristic. 1 for 20 just doesn't happen. 5%. If we would have had a bad shooting night, I think we would have come out on top. We had a ridiculously bad shooting night, so that's kind of where you start to miss Marcus Sasser.
It wasn't
2 threes.
It wasn't even that much about. Yes, the shooting was a bit iffy, but then you also look at your free throw conversion. That was also a bit of an issue. I don't think it was really, is this team skilled in general? This was, I want to say, maybe something mental, something psychological. It's a nerve-wracking game. This is one game away from a Final Four. Essentially, it weighs heavy on the players, on the backs of players. So, like I said, this doesn't declare whether or not Houston is a good team or not. We already know the answer to that. They are. It was just wrong place, wrong time, I believe.
So looking into the future, after losing in the Elite 8, just 1 game short of the Final Four, and it would have been their second trip back in 2 years, I actually think the Cougars are going to be better next year. It'll obviously hurt to lose Fabian White, who's a Houston legend at this point, Kyler Edwards, Tajay Moore, Josh Carlton. They added so much to this team. They're 4 out of the 5 starters. So with that being said, I still think next year's team could possibly be even better. They're for sure going to be good.
And when you have a coach like Kelvin Sampson, named National Coach of the Year by CBS Sports, there's really nothing that can get in the way of this team's ability to succeed, in my opinion. So,
for sure. And on top of that, you regain a healthy Marcus and Tremont. Marcus was a preseason first-team conference pick for the American Athletic Conference. No shocker there. You add back Tremont, who's known for his hustle. You know his buzzer beater against Memphis on senior day last year, his huge and one against Rutgers to keep us in the NCAA tournament last year. Those are two people with big-time experience in the NCAA tournament, let alone the season. And then you also add back Reggie Chaney, who's been playing injured for a while now, so he'll get that hand back under control, and you add Reggie, who also got major minutes last year. So you add this to the culture of Houston, we're going to be really good.
I agree 100%, especially with the fans we have, the way that this team just has this chemistry with one another. I doubt they won't be able to recreate that coming next season.
For sure. And we haven't even touched on Jamal Shead yet, who in my opinion has been like the MVP of the season.
He really has. I don't want to say he's been underrated because, I mean, he's out there. You know what his name is. But in comparison, he does all the nitty-gritty, like, work underground. I don't know how to explain it. The work underground that he creates this foundation for the team to succeed on.
For sure.
And it works.
For sure. Not only facilitating the offense, but he's a leader as well. And, you know, he's a sophomore guard, but he's improved so much just over the course of the season, let alone from last season to this season. So I don't think the Cougars have anything to be worried about, especially when you add in this new recruiting class, Jerace Walker, Terrence Arsenault, Emmanuel Sharp. These are really good kids that we're also gaining from high school. So the Cougars are going to be fine. Like Kelvin Sampson said, they're not going anywhere. They're going to be good. They're going to be back. So I think you should expect the Cougars to make another long tournament run like they've been doing in recent years.
Well, Houston, until next season, my name's Andrea Nava.
And I'm Jala Mason.
And you've just watched In the Game.